the not-self lie, the Buddha taught Rāhula why a self is necessary. We talk about meditation as training the mind, but we have to remember that the Pali word for mind, Citta, covers both what we think of as mind and also what we think of as heart. So we try to develop both a good mind and a good heart. Some people miss this fact. They think it's simply a matter of training the mind to understand the Buddha's concepts and then just to apply them. The question of your goodness or lack of goodness doesn't come in. But that's really unbalanced, and it really misses a lot of the training. A group of Abhidhamma students once came to see Ajahn Fuang. Abhidhamma tends to be very analytical, interested in analyzing the concepts that the Buddha taught, and then trying to apply those concepts to your experience, but with very little reference to the heart. So they came to see him. They'd heard he was a good teacher, but they didn't know what he taught. When they arrived, he said, "Okay, close your eyes, focus on your breath." They said, No, we can't do that." "Why not?" "We're afraid that we'll get stuck on jhana and then be reborn as Brahmas." His response was, "Well, what's wrong with being reborn as a Brahma? Non-returners, people at the third level of awakening, are reborn as Brahmas. And at any rate, being reborn as a Brahma is better than being reborn as a dog." The reference there, of course, was to people who are really good at the concepts but don't have virtue, don't have generosity. They could very easily be reborn as dogs. It's not the concepts that are going to help you understand. You have to understand what it's like to develop a good heart and a good mind together. In the course of that, the concepts will make a lot more sense. You'll be able to do the practice, and the practice will have energy, because there's a lot of need for nourishment as you follow the path, and our nourishment comes from a sense of our own worth. This is why you develop a good sense of who you are and what you're capable of, so that you feel worthy of a happiness that doesn't change, a happiness that's better than ordinary because you're not harming anyone. This sense of self-worth comes from looking at yourself as you practice acts of generosity, as you practice acts of virtue, and you get a sense of your own goodness. It gives you confidence. As the Buddha said, people who are stingy and greedy can't get into right concentration, to say nothing of levels of awakening. As for lack of virtue, there are people who are not virtuous who can get their minds strongly concentrated because they're good at compartmentalizing their minds. But that concentration is not going to be honest. You have to learn first how to be honest in your dealings with yourself, with other people, if you want to get a state of mind that's honest with itself. This is why, when the Buddha taught his son at the very beginning, he said to look at all your actions done with the body, your words and your thoughts. Before you do them, ask yourself, what kind of intention do you have? What do you expect to come about as a result of that action? If you expect any harm, don't do it. That's making you responsible right there. If you don't foresee any harm, go ahead and do it. But while you're doing the action, keep watch. And if you actually are causing harm, stop. After all, there are a lot of things we don't understand before we do them. Only when we actually do them do we see what the results are. You can't just say, well, I had good intentions to begin with and just plow right through. You want to test your good intentions to make sure they're actually skillful. So if you see any harm, stop. If you don't see any harm, you go ahead. Then, when you're done, you ask yourself, this action that I did it lead to harm over the long term? If it did, go talk it over with someone who's more advanced on the path, and then make up your mind not to repeat that mistake. This way, as you try to be harmless in your actions, you learn a lot of good qualities. You learn compassion for yourself and for others. You learn responsibility. You learn honesty, all of which are good qualities to develop for the sake of the meditation. This is why the Dhamma is special. Not just anybody can master the Dhamma. You have to be a good person to master the Dhamma. Being a good person gives you the energy to keep on practicing. For example, with generosity. Someone once asked the Buddha where a gift should be given, and he was expecting the Buddha to say, "Give to the Buddhists," but the Buddha said something else. He said to give where you feel inspired. So start with your heart. Where does your heart want to be generous? Be generous there, and then you can look at the results. You may decide after a while that you wanted something that was not really wise. But the important thing is you start with your heart. The same with the precepts. You realize that you don't want to suffer. Other people are just like you. They don't want to suffer. So you don't want to do anything that would cause them suffering. You look into your heart and try to see what's the best you can do with your heart. And as you sit and meditate, the first meditation instructions the Buddha gives when he talks about acts of goodwill are that you want to make your goodwill universal. Ordinarily, our goodwill is human. In other words, there are some people for whom we have goodwill and other people for whom we have ill will. We'd actually like to see them suffer. We feel that they've done wrong and they should be punished. But how many people actually learn from punishment? What you want, if people are acting in an unskillful way, is for them to see and then to make up their minds on their own that they need to change their ways. They want to change their ways, and they're willing to put in all the effort that's needed. When you wish that for someone else, that's what genuine goodwill is all about. You get a sense of your own power. You can generate goodness from within even when the people around you are not good. You're not just a transmitter, transmitting someone else's goodness through you. We learn of the goodness of the Buddha. We learn of the goodness of the Sangha, the people who've gone before us. But there has to be something within us that says, yes, that really is good, and I want to do some goodness like that. That requires a sense of yourself as an independent starter, yourself as an agent. So, it's at this level of the practice that the concept of self is really useful. In fact, it's a necessary part of the path. When the Buddha was giving instructions to Rāhula, the way he had Rāhula express his questions to himself. This action that I want to do, this action that I'm doing, this action that I have done, you make skillful use of that concept of self, and at the end you rejoice in the fact that you're doing well. That's a healthy sense of self, a nourishing sense of self. It gives you the energy to keep on practicing because you realize the path is not going to get done on its own. You have to do it, but you're capable of doing it, and you're going to benefit. You have proof of that in yourself. You can see yourself acting in good ways. This is why Ajahn Suwat, when he was teaching in Massachusetts, I think it was the third day of the retreat, looked out across the room and mentioned to me, "Notice how grim everybody is here." And you looked out across the room, and they did look pretty grim. It was as if they had a band across their forehead saying "Nirvana or die." He attributed their mood to the fact they didn't have much background in generosity, much background in virtue. They'd gone straight to the meditation. When you're meditating and your mind is wandering off, you begin to get discouraged. You wonder if the Buddha really was teaching something worthwhile. You wonder if you're capable of doing it, even if it is worthwhile. But if you have some experience in the practice of generosity, the practice of virtue, you gain confidence in the Buddha. And you also gain confidence in yourself that you can do good things. We've learned what for a little child is a counterintuitive lesson, which is when you give things away, you actually gain in happiness. The same holds true when you hold yourself back from doing things that would put you in a position of having an advantage over somebody, but actually would be doing harm. When you learn how to gain a healthy sense of self from being generous and being virtuous, you've learned an important lesson that a lot of things in life require that before you can be happy, you have to give. Happiness is not just getting. It lies in the act of being responsible. That strong sense of your responsibility, that you're not just a victim of forces outside yourself. You're actually an independently good agent. That's really nourishment on the path. That's food for you on the path. So this is where, depending on yourself, as the Buddha said, Attahiyatano natho, the self is its own mainstay, has to be developed out of a good heart. This is the level of the path where you need a strong sense of self, a healthy sense of self, a nourishing sense of self that provides you with the energy and nourishment you need to keep going. A good path to be on. There's a reflection that we chant often on how we're subject to aging, illness, and death. We're going to be separated from all that we love. If the reflections stop there, they would be very depressing. They give rise to a strong sense of samvega, a word that means dismay or even terror. You can think about all the places you can be reborn. No matter where you go, they're all subject to aging, illness, and death. But as I said, the reflection doesn't stop there. The fifth one is that we have our actions. We're the owners of our actions, heir to our actions. We're born of our actions, related to our actions, and live dependent on our actions. We have our actions as our arbitrator. That's the hopeful side. All too many people view the teaching on karma as punishment. You've done something bad, and there's going to be punishment coming down the line. But when the Buddha discussed karma, he talked about two things that are actually much more positive. One is generosity. When you give something, it really is meaningful. Because karma is what? It's your intention. And your intentions have power. Think about that. You're not just a victim of forces beyond your control. You exercise a very important element of control in your life, in the intentions that you act on. So, the fact that you give something to someone else means that it wasn't forced on you. It's not because of the stars or the laws of physics. You overcame your own greed, your own stinginess, your own narrow-mindedness. You gave a gift. It's refreshing. It opens up the mind. It's like opening windows in a narrow, stagnant house to let some fresh air in. The way the Buddha taught karma is that we have choices in the present moment. There are influences coming in from our past actions, but that's not all. There are also our present intentions. In fact, without our present intentions, we wouldn't even be aware of things coming in from the past. Our present intentions are what can shape them, for good or for evil. And it is possible for us to learn how to do it well. It's because we have these choices that generosity is meaningful. The other thing the Buddha liked to talk about in connection with karma is gratitude. Again, when someone has helped you, it's not because of the stars. It's not because of the laws of physics. It's because they saw that you were worth helping, and they went out of their way to give help. You can start with your parents, your teachers, anyone who's shown a special kindness to you, and it's meaningful because of the power of karma. The power of your intentions gives meaning to acts of generosity, gives meaning to feelings of gratitude. These are the things that make the human realm livable, yet the way the Buddha explored teaching on karma goes beyond that. He says, you can develop the skills of virtue, concentration, and discernment so that they can lead to total freedom. Think about that. Whenever you're getting discouraged, remind yourself that there is this opening. There's a possibility for you to become more and more skillful, and it doesn't have to depend on anybody else. You don't have to go around pleasing other people. You can be nice to them, you can be kind to them, but you don't have to please them in the sense of doing whatever they want you to do. There are people who say that when you say something that people don't like, you're harming them. The Buddha was not one of those people, though. One time, he was asked if he would say anything displeasing to other people. It was supposed to be a trick question. If he said yes, he would say displeasing things. Then they'd say, well, what's the difference between you and ordinary people down in the market? If he said no, he was on record for saying that Devadatta was going to go to hell, which was certainly displeasing to Devadatta. But the Buddha pointed out, there's no categorical answer to the original question. There's an analytical answer, which is that if something was true, he would say it. If it wasn't true, he wouldn't say it. But that was just the first test. The next test was that even if it was true, it had to be beneficial. And even if it was true and beneficial, he had to know the right time and right place to say things that are pleasing and say things that are displeasing. The analogy he gave was a small child getting a sharp object in his mouth. You do what you can to get the object out of his mouth before he swallows it, even if it means drawing blood, because if he swallows it, it's going to be a lot worse. In the same way, there are times you have to say displeasing things. You don't say harmful things, but you don't go around pleasing people all the time. This path is not one of trying to please other people or some higher power. It's a path where it's basically between you and you, what you want out of life, of all the different desires you might have, you ask which ones are in line with the path of total freedom and which ones are not. You've got to sort through those. But it's something you can do. We read about the Buddha, and sometimes it seems like his efforts on the path, or at least for finding the path, were superhuman. But at the very least, we can take comfort in the fact that he did find the path. We don't have to find it for ourselves. He sketches out the outline, and we fill in the details. This morning, I mentioned the element of creativity in the path. You've got to be creative in how you observe the precepts. In other words, coming up with good reasons to keep with them. Because sometimes the reasons you gave yesterday for wanting to stick with the precepts may not be that persuasive to the mind today. You have to keep taking up fresh reasons for sticking with the precepts. Working with concentration, there's also a lot of room to play. One of the strangest developments in the tradition of Buddhist meditation was the idea that one, you had to focus on your nose, couldn't focus anywhere else. I even read a piece by a monk who was saying that if tell people that they can meditate in any place else besides the tip of the nose, you're going to destroy the religion. There's no place where the Buddha said you had to meditate on the tip of your nose. You bring mindfulness to the fore, he says, which doesn't mean any particular part of the body. It's just that you make mindfulness strong. Put it in charge. The other strange thing is the idea that you can't control the breath. You can't play with the breath. You just have to breathe whatever way the body's gonna breathe. But actually, body doesn't breathe on its own. The in and out breath is what's called bodily fabrication. And fabrication contains an element of intention. So the way you breathe already has a subconscious element of intention. The best way to realize that is to try to breathe in different ways. Consciously change the way you breathe. Find a way of breathing that's comfortable, interesting, soothing when you need to be soothed, energizing when you need to be energized. This involves thinking about how you conceive the breath. Which images do you hold in mind about how the breath works? How does it flow into the body? What is the breath? The in and out breath is not classified as a tactile sensation. In the Buddha's teachings, it's classified as part of the wind element in the body. It's something that's in the body already. It's energy. And energy can be anywhere in the body. It can flow anywhere in the body. So take advantage of that fact. Be creative in your concentration. Be creative in your discernment. You're going to have to ask questions of the mind about why it's attached to this thing or that. When there's pain, physical pain, is there some way you can be with the pain and not suffer from it? When there's the pleasure of the concentration, how can you learn to be with it and not get overwhelmed by it? In other words, you don't just wallow in it. You try to be alert and mindful so that you can watch the mind. See how the mind moves around. See how it clings to things and ask it why. What's the allure? And to get to the allure, you have to ask some pretty strange questions. Because the reasons we go for certain things are not always above board. We have lots of hidden motives, and they're not going to come out until you ask strange questions. So you have to be ingenious in the way you observe the precepts, the way you practice concentration, the way you engage in discernment, which means that we're not being put into a straitjacket. We're not just being told, Just obey, and there will be a reward down the line. We get to engage with all of our mind and all of our heart in terms of generosity, gratitude, virtue, concentration, discernment. All this comes out of the motivation that we want to find happiness in a way that's harmless, so that our attitude of goodwill for ourselves can be universalized, can spread to all beings. May all beings try to find happiness in a harmless way. The Buddha shows that it's possible. There are a lot of things in the path that give you encouragement to realize that you're on a good path. It may not go as quickly as you'd like, but hey, how long have you been mucking around in samsara? Nobody asks, how many more lifetimes am I going to keep on wandering around aimlessly? It's funny, when people talk about how the path may take a couple of lifetimes, and they complain, oh, that's awfully long. But then you think about how many lifetimes you've been wandering around lost. It's much, much, much longer. Much. So you're on a good path, and it has an end. Samsara doesn't have any end point aside from Nibbana. If you don't go to Nibbana, then you keep wandering around, bumbling around. Whereas, when you're on the path, you develop a skill that engages all of your heart and all of your mind. So each step on the path is a good step to take. It's a good path to be on.